Ho, ho, ho. It's that time again. Welcome back to The Highway with Kyle Shutt. I hope you're hungry this week because we have Chef Brian Tsao coming on the program talking about food, cooking in New York City, and his band, Lost Becomes. We had a good old time. As always, if you like hearing me talk my head off, you can hit that subscribe button, smash that follow tab. You do whatever you have to do to make sure that you don't miss a single episode. And if you want to go one step further, you can find us at patreon.com/thehighway. For a few bucks a month, you can help me keep this show going. You can even get yourself a shout out on the program like Matt Linville or Anna Seipel. Thank you all so much. You can even get a guitar lesson from me, whatever you want. Just send me a message. Let's be friends. We also have to give our sponsors, Heil Sound, some love, because if you like the way I sound, it's because there's a Heil in front of me. And if you want to be a sponsor on this show too, you just send me a little email. Send me a message. We'll get you hooked up. This shit is fun. Now, y'all know me. I like talking, but I like eating too. Let's do things my way.
The Highway.
Hello.
So what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. I was gonna ask you. I was gonna say what's cooking, but I was like, oh, out the gates with a dad joke.
Hey, I fucking love dad jokes. Weird question to ask because I was cooking a lot right before I hopped onto this. I was actually filming an episode of Sandwich Sunday.
Nice. And yeah, I just I don't know if it's Sandwich Sunday that I saw, but the episode where you made the Beijing cabbage and pork dumplings was so good. I mean, just there's nothing I love more than a huge plate full of dumplings.
You and I both, I lived in Beijing for so long, and it's one of my favorite things on earth to eat. You know, it's like a last meal type of thing for me.
Yeah, totally. Because I love Austin, which is where I'm at right now, but we have a lot of great Vietnamese, a lot of great Thai food, but you know, honestly, we're pretty lacking in the Chinese department. And so every time I'm in New York, I always make it a point to eat as many Shanghai pork soup dumplings as I possibly can.
Well, now you have one more person to hit up when you come into town because I will take places.
I would love that, man. So, yeah, Brian Tsao, welcome to the Highway. Dude, this is so rad because you're obviously an up and coming chef. Are you celebrity chef status yet? I guess you whoop Bobby Flay's ass on his own show. So,
if you were to ask me, I would say I don't know. Do my thing, and if people find it cool, you know, that's awesome. But I've been doing this for a long time is all I can say. I've been doing this professionally for 17 years now.
Is cooking one of those things you kind of just stumbled into just because you like to eat, or was it a thing you actually went to school for because it was a passion of yours that you wanted to pursue professionally?
The right answer would be a bit of both. I always loved eating. I always loved cooking from a very young age. But yeah, so a bit of both. I always loved eating. I always loved watching cooking shows. One of my first memories as a child is watching Julia Child on PBS, you know, her cooking show, the French, I think it was called The French Chef. But I also did accidentally fall into it because I needed a summer job, and I got a job as a dishwasher at a pastry factory.
Nice.
And I ended up liking it a lot. And I was supposed to attend John Jay School of Criminal Justice. But after I kind of got a taste for the kitchen life, no pun intended,
hey.
I ended up sticking with it and saying goodbye to a life of law enforcement and decided to pursue a life in kitchens.
You made the right move. It's really funny that you brought that up because I love the idea of cops and detectives as like a device in like a fiction. You know what I mean? Like I love cop stories and like detective books and gumshoes, things like that. But man, do I not like cops very much.
Yeah, you know, it was I for me it was very much me wanting to be a cop was very much a product of what I was watching on television at the time. I thought it was the closest thing I could get to being Batman. Well, if I'm going to be completely honest.
That's amazing. But the chef life, that's awesome. Because I love cooking myself. I grew up in a house where we didn't cook ever, and so when I found myself on my own when I was 17, I got really tired of eating, at Taco Bell and just Subway and shit. And I just wanted to learn how to cook, but I had no idea what to do. And I started living in a co-op, and I got a job in the kitchen there doing kitchen prep. So at least I learned how to kind of like prep veg, but I still couldn't actually cook anything. So when I finally moved out of the co-op and on my own, I got cable, and that was right when the Food Network started playing. You could watch Emerald Live, Rachel Ray, and Good Eats kind of like all in a row. It was like a 3-hour block that they would play or something like that. And I watched Emeril Lagasse and Rachel Ray and Alton Brown every day for 2 years, and at the end of it I could pretty much cook. It still took a lot of trial and error and stuff like that, but this is one of those things I always prided myself on, because I just kind of had to teach myself how to do it, kind of like music. And I found that like being in a band, or at least writing songs and cooking, there's a lot more similarities creatively than a lot of people might think, especially like in a one pot dish. It's a lot like a song. You got to start with your bass, and you got to build your layers of flavor, just like you start with your rhythm section and start adding on like melodies that like kind of play off each other and stuff. So, and I thought that was interesting because you're also a musician, and your band Lost Becomes is got a record coming out soon. So yeah, I kind of wanted to pick your brain on what you thought like the similarities in cooking and music are.
Dude, I think I need to hang up right now because you just stole all the words out of my mouth. So, as far as parallels of cooking and music, 100%. I always bring up those parallels when I'm working in kitchens. I mean, how often do you find yourself when you're describing something in music, with kitchen adjectives, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen, or maybe this song maybe that solo needs a little bit of this flavor, right?
We always say put a little pepper on it. That's what we say.
Spice it up a little. How often do we use those references? And I find myself doing the vice versa, where I'll describe a dish as almost like a symphony, and I'll say, okay, well, as I'm taking this bite, if I take all the components from this dish and put it into one bite, wow, I'm tasting this, and then it progresses to this, and it goes to there, and oh, holy cow, what's that finish there? Oh, I didn't see that coming. Very much like a well-written song, or maybe
saying like that's the icing on the cake right there. So there's so many little whatever you want to call them, colloquialisms that we don't think about. We just say it just because it's like just already there in our consciousness.
100%, and I don't know, what can you say? It's like one of the most beautiful things about life, right? Is finding those bridges between art forms, and then you come to realize like how things are much more closely related than sometimes we initially think. Upon viewing or listen.
Also, especially the kind of band that I'm in. We smoke a lot of weed. And when you smoke a lot of weed, you get hungry. So after we play a show or, got done practicing or whatever like that, it's always time to go eat. And it's always, I had a lot of fun, just especially when we're in the studio making albums. Like, you don't have really time to cook because you were in the studio for like 12 hours today. So we would always kind of like try to bop around and find different awesome foods to eat. One of my favorite things that we ever found was in Baltimore, Maryland. There was this place that had the Taj Mahal Pizza. It was like a paneer, like spinach curry pizza. It was one of the best things I've ever eaten. I miss it so much. I think about it often.
Well, I was saying earlier that I was cooking all day, but I ended up not eating anything. So once you mentioned paneer and spinach, it's one of my favorite things in the world to eat. You're going to hear me say that a lot too, by the way. It's my favorite thing to eat. But now my mouth is drooling. So, hey, can I interview you for a second?
Absolutely.
On the road, I know I haven't done an extensive amount of touring. I've done minimal amounts of touring. But on the road, I know it can be really hard to get a meal. So how do you go about it? I know there are some bands that they bring the crock pot. There are some bands that just, eat from the gas station. There are some bands that swear by Taco Bell. Like, what's your routine? What's your go-to? Is your routine the same, differ from anyone else in the band?
it's been so, like we've been touring forever. You know, I've been hopping in and out of vans for 25 years, and I've seen it done many different ways. I've done it many different ways. We've definitely done the tour bus thing where, you know, we've got a George Foreman grill and we're just like cooking up paninis, you know, all night and stuff like that. Or, you know, maybe one of us bought a crock pot and there's just always a soup going or something like that. But then there's always that time of fatigue when you're just so tired and you're just going to eat Waffle House again because it's the only thing there, and you just don't feel like seeking anything out. But that being said, whenever we get to a city where there's definitely a food item that like I have to have, you know, like I always go out of my way to get it. I could live on pho, you know, absolutely. So there's definitely like cities where like my favorite pho spots are, or my favorite sushi spots or something like that. But like I said, on the last tour that we did, it was rather cush. We were out with Primus, and they had catering every day, so we were kind of like living on catering. And also, I try not to eat late at night anymore, so you know that it's saving myself a lot of calories there by not just like huffing pizza at midnight every single night on tour. You know, so there's so many different ways you can go about it. I've seen some bands that just do Uber Eats all the time wherever they go, just placing you know, massive orders at like sushi restaurants and stuff like that, and bringing it to the venue. And so, I don't know. There's so many different answers to that question.
Sounds expensive.
Really good question. It does get expensive. Bands spend so much money when they don't have to. It's ridiculous. It's, you know, just to shed some light on it. If you're in a band and you're going on tour, you can almost guarantee that the highest amount of money that you're going to be able to net is about 40% of what you made. You're going to spend about 60% just of like being out there, you know. But some bands, I'm not going to name names, but you know, they net about 10% and they spend about 90% of their money on the road. And it just blows my mind, just because like being in a band, it's like the Wild West. Like everybody does it differently. There's not like a rule book or like a you know, a guild, an organization that like, you know, sets mandates that you have to follow or anything like that. Completely unregulated, which is also kind of why I like it.
Yeah, true that. You know, Lost Becomes is, you know, we're doing weekend runs right now. Mainly, we all work full-time gigs, and you know, we're kind of we're taking Lost Becomes as seriously as we can possibly take it, but still keeping it part-time, so to speak. So, but we definitely intend to do a longer run in the future, and I've been devising in my mind how I'm going to pull this off, because number one, I'm very cheap. And number two, that's like the bane of my existence. So I've been trying to like figure out, okay, how am I going to make a meal? Not necessarily every meal every day of the week, but how can I at least one meal a day do a home cooked meal? Because you know that food is going to be fundamentally better than anything I can find on the road, short of going to a restaurant.
Absolutely, you got to get you a little Weber grill and get ready to be just grilling every day. That's the easiest way to do it.
I'm gonna take that as point number one. Like that's where the pyramid's gonna build from.
Man, yeah, that's I'm excited for you hitting the road like that. It's there's nothing like it, and it gets addicting, and it's so much different than it used to be. I mean, everything's always changing, but especially in this kind of post-COVID world, it's just you're making the right move, because like it's harder than ever to rely on restaurants being open, or even just like nobody updated their Google hours once the pandemic hit, so you can't even rely on like the internet anymore to tell you if this place is going to be open or if it's permanently closed or anything like that. So yeah, you're way better off trying to at least make your own food when you can.
I did not think about that. Holy cow, you are 100% right. I can't tell you how many times not touring, I'm like, oh, let's go to this restaurant. Closed, but you know, on Google it says it's open till whatever hours, because obviously they didn't update their hours of operation during the pandemic. But yeah, I did not think about that. So
and if they didn't do it in New York, then they did not do it in South Carolina. You know what I
mean? Point very well taken. Well, I guess there's always Taco Bell, right?
Oh God, I don't just like this chill went up my spine when you said that. Yeah, New York's it's a lot different now. It's I've said it before, but it's the city that sleeps.
Yep.
It's hard to get a late night meal in Brooklyn now. I never thought I would say that.
It's have you been back to New York recently?
We were just there about a month ago, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, you've been here fairly recently. I mean, I will say it's the most alive that I've seen it in the last 20 months.
Mm-hmm.
I feel Brooklyn has definitely, like, the outer boroughs have definitely fared better than Manhattan. The outer boroughs being, I'm mainly saying Brooklyn and Queens. I'm from Queens, and I hang out a lot in Brooklyn. You mentioned Brooklyn, so I'm assuming, did you guys play Vitus?
No, we played the music hall, and then the next night we played the Beacon on the Upper West Side.
Right on.
Yeah, Manhattan's chill now. I never thought I would say it's New York's chill. It's not nearly as crazy as it used to be.
I definitely feel I definitely see like office buildings starting to open up again. There's definitely life starting to, the life, that old energy of New York is slowly coming back. It's not back yet, but it is slowly coming back. It's definitely different from what it used to be. You
say you're from Queens. You ever go to John Brown Barbecue?
I live like 10 minutes away, and I have not been. I've been meaning to go. I keep meaning to go, but like, my wife's not a big meat eater.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I try to convince her to go to a barbecue spot, she's like,
It's all about the sides. Their cornbread casserole is amazing. Their mac and cheese. It's like a Kansas City bar. It's weird. I don't know why a Kansas City barbecue place is like right there in the middle of, I think it's like Sunnyside or somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly where. Long Island City. But yeah, you got to check it out.
I've been meaning to. You know who else told me about that place forever? Every time I see him, Chris Christie.
Oh yeah.
Show he fucking loves. I think the team is the Browns, right? I'm sorry if I.
No. Yeah, the Cleveland, or that's Cleveland. No, or the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. So I'm not a sports guy, obviously. So, but that's like his go-to spot.
Yeah, I met him there one time. I think Ronnie, the limo driver, was outside waiting for him, too.
Oh, no. So yeah, I've been meaning to go. Definitely somewhere I have to make time for.
That's okay, because Fetishau is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just different. It's just a different kind of place. Yeah, like I was saying, it's hard to get a bite in Williamsburg now. Like one of my favorite spots to go is the Commodore, because their fried chicken plate was one of my favorites. But I guess their kitchen caught on fire and they just never rebuilt it, so it's just a bar now. I was so disappointed the last time I went in there.
Yeah, dude. Next time you guys play in New York City, definitely hit me up, and I'll tell you a few late night spots to hit up. There's a few good taco trucks there. Maybe a little bit out of the way, but I think it's worth it.
That's all that matters. The late night thing is funny because, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's not true for everybody, but I always found that all my years of touring, that the three kind of people that usually gravitate towards each other are musicians and chefs and strippers, because we all keep really weird hours and we all give so much of ourselves for other people's enjoyment, and we all love good food, and we all usually have some disposable income, or at least access to good food and stuff like that. So I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've ended up at a late night restaurant with a chef and a stripper, just hanging out, having the best time. But I don't know, is there any truth to that?
No, tons of truth to that, 100%. I have not worked a restaurant for the last 20 months, basically. But for me, it wasn't so much of a sad story, in that I actually left the restaurants to open up my own project. So I was kind of in this R&D phase anyway, working with it. I found an investor, and so I kind of had my thing set, and I wasn't planning to get back into the kitchens until I had done all my R&D for this new project. And then the pandemic hit, and it kind of like ended up working out for myself. But when I was working in the restaurants, I'd get out normally midnight every night.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, you're leaving with all your coworkers and you're like, oh, just one beer, just one. Before you know it, you made 5 new friends at the bar, whether it's other chefs or other musicians and or strippers. For me, it was mainly other musicians, because the place where I was working very late was really close by both Irving Plaza and Gramercy Theater.
Nice.
I would often have bands over to the restaurant, but I would try to often leave early, catch the show, and hang out afterwards. Sometimes even bringing them back to the restaurant after it's closed already, and fucking party until they had to hop on the bus.
That's where the real fun happens. Hanging out in the restaurant after hours. Yeah, just smoking weed, eating ribs.
Oh my god, I haven't done that for quite some time now, but some of the best times of my life for sure.
Absolutely. Well, man, I gotta pick your brain about what it's like being on a food competition show, because it's one of those things where, like, I mean, lots of people know how to cook and stuff like that, but one thing I found, especially like if I'm going on vacation or something like that, and I want to make my favorite dish wherever we're staying, because there's a whole kitchen in there and stuff like that. Like, there's always so much difference than when you're making it in your own little controlled environment, that like anything can go wrong. So I always have so much sympathy for people on the food competition shows, because like you're outside or something, the humidity is different, you got an electric burner instead of a gas burner, you got like there's so much that could go wrong. Like how do you still pull it off and whoop Bobby Flay's ass? I just want to know.
Because one of the first things you said was the humidity is different, and my goodness, how much of a fucking difference the humidity can make in your food.
Mm-hmm.
Something a lot of people don't realize. Yeah, it's extremely stressful. I mean, even for a chef, just to work at a different kitchen, let's say it doesn't happen. At least it hasn't happened often to me. But if I go to a friend's restaurant and help them for a day, it's usually fucking stressful, because I don't know what anything is. The setup's completely different, and you don't really have your legs underneath you, so to speak. When it comes to competition shows, it's a test of a few things. Number one is I think the main test is your nerves, because you're under so much pressure in a brand new environment. You have a ton of eyes watching you,
mm-hmm.
cameramen, producers, and assistant producers and assistant this and that, and wardrobe and makeup and all kinds of fucking people. You're just under a microscope. You don't want to look stupid, right? So you get self-conscious. So number one is nerves. And then, of course, number two is figuring out where the fuck everything is. And for both Chopped and Beat Bobby Flay, they take you around the kitchen and they say, okay, this is where this is, that's where. And it's like a 10, 15-minute tour at most, right? And you make all these mental notes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, Kyle, you're a musician, and I mean, do you remember what your first few shows were? Right?
Oh yeah.
In your bedroom, in front of your mirror. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this move, and when I bend this note, I'm going to make that face, and blah blah blah. And then the day happens, and you blink your eyes a couple times, and oh shit, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you played 15% faster than you were supposed to. It's the same exact thing being put on that stage, the so-called stage for competition shows. The only difference is, typically kitchen workers don't get put on a stage like that.
Right.
Where you're so exposed. So I could definitely say that Beat Bobby Flay went a lot better for me, obviously, because I won, than Chopped did, because I was so nervous for Chopped. I was just, I basically, my hands didn't stop shaking the entire
mm-hmm.
time.
I could see it almost being because cooking is very meditative, especially if you're in your own little zone and you know where everything is, you can turn your brain off. And that's kind of when I have my best shows, is when my brain just shuts off and I don't think, I just do, so I can only imagine having all the lights on you, working with you open your Chopped basket and all they gave you was a hammer and the squid tentacle or something like that. You know what I mean? You're like, what do I do? Is it really you get absolutely no hints or anything like that about what's in the basket, right?
100% legit is
that's crazy.
You not know what the fuck's going on. Beat Bobby Flay is a little different. First round, there's a secret ingredient, and you have to make a dish with that. You don't know what that ingredient is. The second round, so you do a first round with another chef, whoever wins goes on to face Bobby. The advantage the challenger gets is they get to pick the dish. So in that scenario, you do know what you're going to be making, and that's the advantage Bobby gives you. For Chopped, when that basket's put there, you do not have a fucking clue what's inside. Yeah. So for my, I lost Chopped, and I was the first one Chopped as well, which really pissed me off. But yeah, when that basket was in front of me and I opened it up, my heart sank. It was just, I had no idea what the fuck to do. And I honestly ended up making a half decent dish. It's just that I forgot to salt it.
Ooh. That's
I didn't salt it. Totally fucked it up.
Yeah. Do you salt? Are you of the French school where you salt, like the salt is the last thing you do, or do you salt as you go?
I salt as I go. I basically salt at every stage for the most part. It depends. It really depends on what I'm cooking. Like the technique will pretty much change. But I am a Western trained chef. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in upstate New York by Hyde Park. So yeah, I do have a French culinary background.
That's awesome. Is it sort of like culinary boot camp where like you're just in there making like stock for a week and then until you like perfect it or something like that? They just like keep adding on it or something like that. I've always wanted to know what goes into the Culinary Academy.
Oh yeah, so there are many different types of schools. So like a trade or a vocational school is usually like a 9-month program. But the CIA is a 2-year associate's degree program, and they also have a bachelor's program is there. No, I'm not being paid by CIA to sell that to anybody, but I did the associate degree program, and it's basically, it's two years. You learn a ton of stuff. You learn everything from, kitchen math to product knowledge. So learning about different vegetables and proteins. There's butchery class. There's seafood class where you go over all the different types of seafood. And there's no way you're going to cover every single thing, but you get a pretty comprehensive knowledge of the main items for sure.
Do you ever think about, because like I look through cookbooks as a hobby sometimes if I go to a used bookstore, or I do enjoy watching sort of more cooking shows with like more of a historical bent. But does it ever blow your mind like how poorly people ate up until like not that far in the past? You know what I mean? Like some of these recipes from like the 60s and 70s you're reading are just like, good Lord, this is what you people ate?
For sure. But also I think the biggest difference was there was a lot more portion control back then. I'm pretty sure there was a lot better portion control. I think, how old are you, Kyle?
38.
Okay, so we're basically the same age. I'm 37. So our parents, the boomer era, it was all about getting your money's worth, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember my dad. It's actually to this day, we have family dinner basically every week. My dad still to this day wants to go out to eat at a buffet. All about that quantity. And it drives me absolutely nuts. But the food was definitely very rich, but I think there was a concept of, being a little smarter with your portions.
That's interesting. Yeah. Also, like you mentioned, Julia Child earlier. I remember watching her make dishes, and they just looked like shit. You know what I mean? Like she's just slopping shit on the plate and everything. It's funny how like the internet really changed the way like now your food has to look like so beautiful that it's almost like they put so much effort into making it look pretty that like they forget that it's supposed to taste really good as well.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times. Like the key is to have it do both, look pretty and taste good too, right? Eat with your eyes first. It's the first sense that gets engaged, other than smell, depending on what kind of smells the food is giving off. But this modern era of social media has definitely spawned a lot of like food for show, and I can't tell you how many times I've it's like as soon as like 7-8 years ago, I think is when Instagram was really starting to happen, or something like that. I was making dishes that like didn't necessarily taste very good, but looked absolutely beautiful. And that drove me crazy. I ended up never putting them on the menu because I couldn't stand by it. But yeah, there's definitely an element of that. And sometimes, you know, that shit like steaks covered in fucking gold leaf or something like that. I mean, it's all totally gimmicks. Maybe the steak is the best steak in the world. I don't know, but yeah, I see through that shit pretty quickly.
Yeah, totally. Well, was music like one of those passions too that like you just kind of always wanted to get into, that like cooking was just your job, and that was kind of like all of a sudden you started getting a lot better at cooking than you thought you would, and so music took it back? Or I wanted to ask like how you just wanted to start a band and like got into music, because like most of the musicians that I talk to, like, you know, it's just if you want to make it in music, you just give up everything. I'm talking everything. You burn every bridge, like every relationship you're in just goes on the back burner. Haha, get it? Yeah. And but yeah, what how did you get into music and like wanting to play?
So I have been playing guitar longer than I've been a chef. I've been playing I'm 37 now. I've been playing guitar since I was 13 years old. I didn't start cooking professionally until I was 20. So I've been playing and writing music for way longer. I was always an artistic kid. I thought I was going to be a comic book artist, but man, I don't know what your listeners are going to think of me, but the band that really like wanted me to grab a guitar was during the whole nu metal movement.
Yeah. Specifically
Wes Borland of Limp Bizkit. You know, like I just loved his theatrics, you know, his crazy costumes and stuff like that. And that was what like kind of pushed me over the edge to like, oh, I actually want to try this thing. And I should also mention, actually, I wanted to be a bass player, but it ended up becoming guitar. And I basically dropped everything for music. But when I was 13, turning 14, I was, you know, wasn't the greatest kid and wasn't doing very well in school. And my dad brought up the idea of me doing an exchange program in Beijing, China for a year. And I jumped at it. I was like, oh, I would love to get out in New York and see the motherland and, you know, get a closer connection to my culture. So what that ended up doing was like insulating me, because I didn't grow up speaking the language. My mom's Korean, my dad's Chinese, and they spoke shitty English in the house. So I grew up speaking shitty English.
In Beijing, is it Mandarin that they speak?
Mandarin, yes, it's Mandarin. But I didn't speak any Mandarin. So when I first got there, it was extremely lonely. And I just kind of, after school, locked myself in a room. And I had a couple of tab books, specifically Metallica and Pantera. And that's all I would do, is just learn these riffs and do my best with the solos and, you know, play the CD back and over again and trying to figure out, you know, how to play along to them. So that time in Beijing really like caused me to hone down on my craft, so to speak. And I actually have Beijing, mainland China's first independent touring metal band. It was a band called Hollow. I was, you know, 17 when I started. And I started it with two German kids that, you know, their parents like worked for the German embassy. The vocalist was Chinese and the bassist was Chinese, and we did really well for ourselves. We basically started touring culture. It's very cheap to get from town to town in China via high-speed rail. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. We, you know, much like Metallica in their younger years would hop into a van and go from town to town, we did the next best thing because we couldn't rent a vehicle in China. We put all our equipment on our backs. Felt really bad for the drummer, but we threw all our equipment on our backs and went from town to town via high-speed rail. And after that, I mean, every band started doing it. So I was always into metal. I was always playing in bands. I spent 6 years in China. When I came back to China, though, the catalyst, and like this will turn into a 4-hour podcast, so I'm not going to go into detail, but essentially I developed some really bad drug issues. And the first time and the last time I ever tried heroin was the day that I decided to move back to America, move back to this. So I came back and I kind of left music behind for the most part. Because I wanted to, quote unquote, grow up. And throughout my whole life, not my whole life, but actually, no, most of my life, I was always artistic, wanted to be a comic book artist, wanted to be a musician, play in a heavy metal band. My dad is a mechanic, and, he always stressed learning a skill that utilizes your hands. And I finally decided to, take that advice. And, although I was originally going to go to John Jay, college, when I got exposed to kitchen life, I was like, oh, this is my opportunity to learn a skill that uses my hands. And that's exactly what I did. And I told myself, you know what, if I master this skill, I can do whatever the fuck I want later on. So music was kind of put on the back burner. I did play in bands. I even played in a Christian rock band at one point. I did a lot of projects along the way, but nothing super serious. So Lost Becomes is kind of that project where all the pieces kind of felt right. I had the chemistry with everyone in the band. I was older and a bit more mature, and so is everyone else in the band. So, we get shit done, because we take it seriously, but we also don't take it personally. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Cause a lot of bands, especially when you start real young, the band is the only thing that matters. Screw everything else. You know what I mean? This, you have to make the show and everything. So that's a really awesome thing that y'all have that perspective where you can just just get shit done and don't take it personally. It's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, the joke within the band is I treat it like my kitchens. I'm very much the driving force behind the band, but it's just because I don't know any other way to do it. But I'm a fucking busy guy, so I don't have time to play around and mess around. Yes, I'm here to have fun, but I want to maximize my time. And if we're gonna play a show, let's play a really good fucking show. And if we put out a music video, let's put out a really good music video. All it takes is more effort on our part, right?
Absolutely. That's so fucking cool, man, that you're able to come back after all that time and really do it right again. That's admirable. Cheers, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man. That means a lot coming from you. And yeah, that's the whole idea of Lost Becomes. It was not intended. We did not intend to take it as seriously as we have up till now, but it just ended up working that way because, we were all able to identify that all the quote unquote ingredients. Hey, another dad joke. All the ingredients were there that if we just were patient and put in a little bit more effort, we could probably, make a little noise with this band. And we're very proud of the music.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Well, I always ask my musician guests if they want to play a track. Do you have any songs that you'd want to play off the upcoming record?
Yeah, please. That would be amazing. So we just released a new track called Healing. It's available for streaming. But the thing to really watch is the music video. So after you listen to the song on your preferred streaming service, look up our video, Lost Becomes Healing, on YouTube. We have a lot of great cameos from friends I've made over the years, wining and dining at my restaurants. We have Jesse Leach, Ben Weinman, we have Tim Howley from Fit for an Autopsy, Justin Wang from Jinx, who also has his own incredible YouTube show. So yeah, check it out. Healing from Lost Becomes.
Awesome, man, dude. Thank you so much, Brian, for sitting down and talking with us. This was super fun. I always love getting multiple kind of points of view from the entire entertainment industry, and the kitchen is just one of those just essential parts of any touring outfit. And thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely, and I'm definitely hitting you up next time we're in New York. It's probably going to be April or May, something like that.
Okay, please do. And you know what? Before we hang up, do you want a signature sandwich?
I would love a signature sandwich.
I know signature Reverend guitar, but maybe now it's time for you to get a signature sandwich.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Is there a way we could make a banh mi into a panini or something? I don't know.
What's going to happen is I'm going to send you a questionnaire. You fill out the questionnaire, and based on those answers, I create a signature sandwich for you.
Hell fucking yeah.
I have a YouTube show called Sandwich Sunday, new episode every Sunday. It's awesome sandwiches inspired by the most unlikely of people. And Kyle, you deserve a fucking signature sandwich.
Where is this guy, man? Dude, can you call him? Please?
All right, I'll call him. All right, chill out.
Oh, fuck. Hello?
Yo, where are you, man?
Oh, I'm sorry. My pool is on fire. My fish is drowning.
Thanks so much for tuning into The Highway this week. A big shout out to Reverend Guitars, Railhammer Pickups, and Earthquaker Devices. If you liked what you heard, you can follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe, and if you want to go one step further, you can support us on Patreon at The Highway with Kyle Shutt. For a few bucks a month, you can help us keep this party going, get early access to next week's episode, and even get yourself a shout out.